Hey everyone, this is Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology. Today we're going to take a look at the Sun's application to Neptune by opposition. So the two planets are coming into an opposition this week. Today into tomorrow, we'll be looking at the perfection of this aspect, and I'll bring it up on the real-time clock and show you. And then I'm going to tell you about 5 Sun-Neptune stories that I can't forget because they happen all the time in my client practice. These are going to be applications of Neptune transiting the birth chart and contacting the sun, mostly through conjunctions, squares, oppositions, though, the trine is also a powerful aspect. Sextiles, not always as noticeable. So I'm going to be looking at some of those hard aspects from transiting Neptune to the sun in birth charts and the most common stories that I've seen over the years, and even some specific ones that come to mind. So that is going to be our agenda for the day. We're going to use that as a way of understanding the Sun-Neptune dynamics that are present in the sky this week. So that's our goal. Before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe. We are getting really close to 70,000 subscribers. A big thank you to everyone who has helped us almost double our monthly average of subscribers in the past couple of months. Trying to get there by the fall equinox. That's basically this week. We have a little ways to go, but we're very close now. So I think we're going to make it soon. Either way, thank you to everybody. If you watch regularly and haven't yet subscribed, it's free to do so. Helps us grow our channel and community. We really appreciate it. You can find transcripts of any of my daily talks, as always, on the website, which is nightlightastrology.com. Going to take you over there because tonight I have a live talk on the karma of Venus in your birth chart. This is a talk that is happening tonight from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern time. You can register, and if you can't attend the live webinar, you get the recording afterward. This is a talk about the karma of Venus by sign in your birth chart, meaning that the kinds of stories, themes that Venus is going to tell about your love life, relationships, sexuality. And this is something that can really help us to unpack the meaning of Venus in our birth charts, or if you work with other people, your clients' charts as well. So don't miss that. And then the other thing is first-year course, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic. The next program begins November 16th. The pre-registration sale and early bird rates are now open until October 15th. You have time to save on this class. There's also need-based tuition. If you are someone who could use a little help to make this class happen, you need to work within a fixed budget. We get it. So please apply for the tuition assistance. We have limited number of spots available for people and are glad to try to make sure that nobody's priced out of studying astrology. So at the end of today's video, I will be also tagging on there's an informational video that will now be available at the end of my content during enrollment season, where after the daily content is finished, you can stick around and learn more about the first year program and see if it's a good fit for you or not. But any questions you have that are not answered, feel free to email us, info@nightlightastrology.com. I would say, and I've said this a few times, it's a really good electional signature for studying astrology right now because we're going to be doing so as Pluto enters Aquarius again in November. So a really nice election for the study of astrology that's coming through. All right, so here we are on Thursday, September 19th, and let's take a look at the aspect that we have in the sky right now. If I can get my epic pen up. Ah, there you are. Okay. Okay. Now, here is the sun, late degrees of Virgo, applying to the opposition with Neptune. This kind of completes the journey of the eclipse because the eclipse contained the application of the sun in an opposition with Neptune. And so anyway, I thought it was interesting this week we had a conversation, myself and Ari Moshe Wolf, about the way in which different forms of astrology are in some ways sort of downloaded from spiritual places. And that's been something that sages and mystics who practice astrology have said for thousands of years. And so we use that as a jumping off point to talk about some of the spiritual compatibility and similarities between evolutionary astrology and Hellenistic astrology. That was an interesting conversation. I felt like it was also appropriate given the application of the sun opposite Neptune. It was a really fun talk. Anyway, so Sun is opposing Neptune today. And if we roll this forward one more day, we'll see that opposition completes tomorrow. And then we're separating and heading into Libra over the weekend for the fall equinox by Sunday. So A very powerful opposition to Neptune because the lunar eclipse was also conjoined with Neptune while the sun was applying to it. So this is, in a sense, um, a Sun Neptune opposition that is charged with the remains of the solar eclipse or the lunar eclipse, excuse me, that just formed. So, what I want to talk about today are some of the most common things that I have seen in my practice with clients whenever Neptune transiting Neptune is aspecting the sun in the natal chart. So by this, I mean when Neptune opposes your natal sun, when Neptune squares or conjoins your natal sun. And sure, I've even seen some of these things happen with the trine, though the trine has a different kind of, usually you see things that are a little smoother and easier to integrate and deal with. The squares, conjunctions, oppositions, those hard aspects are often a little bit more dramatic and represent more pivotal periods of growth or transformation. So anyhow, but these are some of the stories I can't forget. Some of them are specific, some of them are very general because I've seen some of these many times. In the case of at least one of these, I've seen it one very memorable time, but it's something that I felt like we could do today in order to get into the heart of this archetypal exchange using these stories to illustrate what we might experience ourselves in the next couple of days here with this aspect perfecting. So the number one that I have on my list, these are in no particular order, but there's a very particular story that comes to my mind when I had a client who was experiencing a Sun-Neptune opposition in their birth chart. And it coincided with their father who, and I'm going to get this wrong, I think it was Parkinson's, but it was a degenerative condition where their mental like cognition and clarity of mind was gradually dissipating. So almost, I want to say maybe dementia, but I can't remember. But anyway, the sad part about it was that he wasn't like particularly old. I think it might have been like late 60s, something like that. So it was a little young, in terms of people live into 80 or 90 or something. It was on the younger side. But anyhow, this person's father was fading out, basically. That's the way that I would describe what my client's experience was like. Their consciousness was, the normal linear person was leaving, and there was this foggy kind of lack of clarity mentally. And this was very painful. But what was really interesting was that during these final days or final months or whatever it was, the last period of time before this person's father passed, they were suddenly able to speak to things that they were never able to speak to before. And so, for example, their father was able to apologize and suddenly had this total lucidity, even though they were daily losing this overarching sense of clarity and cognition and sort of linear grounded rational capacities were like leaving them. But the dad had this sudden ability in like random bursts, like the clouds were parting, and when some form of normal consciousness would come back, this person's father would be able to open up and be vulnerable and have some deeply healing exchanges with their kids, including my client. I'll never forget this because I just thought, isn't that just so Neptune opposite your sun? And we had this deep, nice conversation, I think, about Neptune and the sun. But when we look at that, let's break it down archetypally. So if the sun is clarity, Neptune can be like fog, Sometimes that's a really good thing. Think about mystical experiences where your normal sense of what you think to be real or true, think of it, it's interrupted. There's fog that comes over it. And then somehow you come into clarity, but the clarity that you come into is like a new world. Think, for example, of Plato's analogy of the cave, or allegory of the cave, excuse me. Plato's allegory of the cave. The prisoner is seeing shadows on a wall in a cave. They're chained to the rocks, I believe. And they're seeing the shadows playing out on the wall, and they're thinking that's what's real. And it is a kind of light that they're seeing, but it's actually a like a false impression. It's a reflection or a shadow. And then they come out of their chains and they're able to see the fire that's creating the illumination. Oh my gosh. Now I really see what's going on. So one form of perception is traded for another. And then the prisoner goes out of the cave into the light of the sun in the real world outside of the cave. And there's another process of disillusionment that goes on where now we can see the real forms, the real light. Neptune and the sun can be like sea changes in our conscious perception of truth. That suddenly we are in receipt of a much broader and truer understanding of something. And what I like to imagine is that there's no ceiling to how true things can get. It's like we step into a ray of the sun and we either look at that ray and we go, okay, like I'm in the middle of a ray. Or there's actually an image that came from, I think it was C.S. Lewis. I can't remember where this came. No, C.S. Lewis was quoting someone else. But you walk into like a gardening shed in your backyard and it's dark, except for there's a hole in the tin roof and there's a beam of light coming through it. And you could either point at the beam of light and go, oh, look, there's a beam of light. Or you could step into the beam of light and look up by means of the ray of light through the hole in the roof. And by means of the ray of light, you see. So in many ways in our everyday life, we are all in the process, spiritually speaking, intellectually and psychologically, of initially pointing at a ray of light and then eventually learning how to step into it and see by means of it. And this is the process that astrology outlines for us too. We go from looking at events in our lives and seeing them as events and only being able to interpret them in terms of the pleasure or pain they cause us, how desirable or undesirable they are, which is a level of truth. Yes, there is a beam. I'm pointing at it. But then when we use archetypes, we live an astrological lifestyle, we step into the beam and we look up out through the roof by means of the beam. And by means of the experience, we see the fingerprints of the divine. This is very Neptune Sun in the sense that Neptune Sun will often be about the interplay between this kind of haze or fog and then illumination or clarity. And this was so wonderfully illustrated in the last days of this person's experience with their father. Father being the sun, Neptune being the cloudy cognition, with sudden moments of amazing lucidity and clarity that was very healing. So think about that as a good story. Stories like that are common, but this one was a specific one that came to my mind. Number two, I have seen many Neptune Sun aspects coincide with people, either clients I'm talking about where we go back in time and look at some important events in their life, or they're in the midst of a Neptune transit to their sun, and they are realizing they have a problem with a pattern of escapism, codependency, addiction, some inability to see the truth about something that is draining or damaging to their vitality. And suddenly you hit a rock bottom where you see the light. And this is such a Sun-Neptune thing, and it plays on some of the same themes of going from fog to clarity. Many people describe the path of recovery as a path of, how can I put it? They describe it as a path of moving from being in denial or not seeing clearly the pattern to suddenly being illuminated and understanding it. So, this is something that I've seen many times. Many Neptune Sun aspects, among other things, sometimes Neptune Venus, Neptune Saturn. There can be lots of aspects that actually bring about similar result where you come to understand that, it's like I think of the first steps of the 12-step programs. I came to realize that my life was unmanageable. It's like there's a higher power and I need its help because I am helpless over this particular pattern or issue. So Neptune Sun will coincide with this sense that I'm out of control. I haven't been seeing something. I've been deluded. I need help from a higher power. I see clearly, and I have to somehow surrender to the issue as being larger than something I can control and something I can no longer delude myself about. And that doesn't necessarily have to be about substance abuse, right? It's just one example. But it's that same sense of I surrender and I'm seeing something clearly that maybe I've been deluded or in denial about. Number 3 is spiritual awakening. This one is so common, and it can happen through anything. It could happen through the rock bottom. It could happen through the healing with your dad. It could happen in any number of situations, but the result often is this feeling of having been illuminated from within. That the Sun-Neptune puts us in touch with something transcendental. Psychedelic experiences are common with Sun-Neptune. Therapeutic breakthroughs are common with Sun-Neptune. Transits like this are brief in the sky. When they affect the natal chart, they obviously have a longer and more drawn out influence. But spiritual awakening, even in small doses over the next couple of days, would not be shocking. Spiritual awakening is not something that has to be like level 10 lightning strike. Spiritual awakening can be just that sense that I'm coming through a fog or a haze and I'm starting to see the sun again. And the sun or the stars guide my vessel. I use them to navigate. They are guiding me home. I don't know where home is. I don't exactly know, who I am, but I know that I'm on a journey and suddenly I have a re-inspired sense that that is the case. And I've had it before, but somehow I forgot. Just like in Plato's allegory of the cave, the prisoner coming into contact with these things is, in a sense, remembering them. We're an eternal being. The material universe is a reflection of eternity. And so there's this way in which everything we're learning is already there. It's always been there inside of us. It's really trippy when that happens, when you have a sense that something you're learning for the first time has been something you've already always known. But that is such a Sun-Neptune experience. And it's so, I don't know, there's nothing more creatively satisfying, really, is there, than being in contact with that feeling of timeless, original creativity that is also feeling like it's always been there. And wow, this feels like the first time I've contacted it. And that weirdness. I feel like the same kind of weird perceptual paradox is present when I think about my kids and how it feels like they were born just yesterday, and then how it feels like they've been with me forever. So I know that you guys know what I'm talking about when I speak of this, because it exists in many places. But Sun-Neptune will often amplify that conscious sense of things being outside and inside of time simultaneously, which most people describe as creatively inspiring or spiritually awakening. Number 4 is creative success. Actually, there are many examples of Neptune transiting the sun in a natal chart that will coincide with people coming into the spotlight. Glamour, fame, film, Hollywood. The fact that we are enamored by stars is really the fact that we are enamored by archetypes, because stars are embodiments, especially in Hollywood, where they portray archetypal roles in films that are mythic and themselves archetypal. Our bedazzlement with fame is often really underlying, is really a bedazzlement with archetypes, with the gods, because we sense that life is more imaginal, more fantastical, more miraculous, more mysterious than a lot of our mundane experiences make us feel like. It's easy to reach out for that numinous sense of the divine, eternal, the archetypal through Hollywood or films or through theater, and then by extension through celebrities. But a celebrity is really just sort of, why? And then what do celebrities struggle with? And I've actually seen this because, a lot of astrologers have at least some celebrity clients and high profile people over their career. Many celebrities have strong Neptune aspects in their charts and will struggle to differentiate between the collective projections that are placed on them. You're an icon, you're a god, you're an archetype, and being a person. And so it's an interesting thing that happens when Neptune transits the sun in a natal chart or in the sky, where almost like reflections on the highest potentials or perfection or our bedazzlement by fame and glamour and success will cloud the actual substantive yearning, which is for the divine, because the archetypes are thoughts in the mind of the divine. And it's like they're so beautiful. And then when we see them closely approximated in people in the spotlight, we get enamored with the person or the soul, but the soul isn't an archetype. You and I are not archetypes. We're people, which is why you are also not your birth chart, Not good to be too identified with your birth chart. It's think of your birth chart more like a device that you can use for the sake of reflection upon your eternal mysterious soul. Anyhow, creative success is one thing that can come, but also just creative inspiration and a recognition of the archetypal itself that sort of permeates things and can be very uplifting, very enchanting, very magical, a little intoxicating even. Number 5, major moments of disillusionment. Here's the other thing that happens with the Sun and Neptune. We often go through periods of time where, as I said to start with, you can suddenly realize that something that you have thought to have been the truth is simply not. And for some of us, that is relieving. That is forgiveness and mercy and compassion. The universe would help us see that some assumption, some judgment, some perception is just not true. I think we're always hard on ourselves in those moments. You think, gosh, I was wrong. Isn't it so much more interesting and beautiful? And don't we become so much more enriched? And don't we become deeper people when instead we say to ourselves, thank you. Thank you, whatever forces there are, whatever exists out there that is helping me see something that I couldn't see, that is beautiful. As long as we insist on thinking that we are in control and that we are in charge of trying to move from error to truth constantly, like if I can just be good enough, and I can just move along hierarchies of truth and understanding to be a masterful person, to be a virtuous person. No, the real gift of life comes when we fail, when we don't understand. And then we can come to be absolutely enchanted by something that is gracious enough to help us understand, to help us learn, to help us grow. And if that isn't deepening our relational and devotional appreciation for the universe and for each other, then we're missing the real gift of the moment, which is not just now before you were dumb. It's like, no, what's even more amazing than going from error to truth is the beautiful personality of the universe that cared enough about you to give you a new understanding. And actually, the real gift is when you're in touch with that, you get a deepened relationship with that reality. And man, once you have that, the gift is humility. The gift is curiosity. The gift is, hey, what else don't I know? Dear universe, please teach me. I don't even know if I know what I need. Dear universe, please enlighten me. And when you start developing a sense that, this universe is a benevolent being that is the seed of being and it's helping me move along, boy, it takes a lot of pressure off from us. So major moments of disillusionment, but be careful of the secret barb of the ego that will start getting proud. Well, now I know. Well, I was stupid before, but wow, I came into the clear understanding of something. And one of the symptoms of sort of self-righteousness and taking credit for moving from error to truth will be that once you're in receipt of truth, you'll start judging people who aren't. Or you'll start using you come through a period of disillusionment and you think that it gives you the right to enact revenge on people who maybe have been a part of, the illusions that you've been stuck in. No, if we really understand how gracious it is to come out of illusion into some moment of truth, then we embody graciousness ourselves. That's how it seems to work best. Okay, well, anyway, 5 patterns that I've noticed with the Sun and Neptune. I hope those are useful for you, that you get some good value out of them, and that maybe you're able to notice some of these qualities just kind of in the air over the next few days. These are big Neptune transits that last a year, year and a half, 2 years sometimes. We're dealing with a transit that lasts a couple of days, but it is coming off from a big Neptunian lunar eclipse. So pay attention, see what you can see. After I sign off, if you want to come study astrology in our fall program that starts November 16th, whether you need some tuition assistance help or you want to take advantage of our sale, you just want to know more about the program, what it includes, what you're going to get out of it, how it's structured, what we cover. Stick around after I sign off right here because I've got an informational video for you that I hope you will enjoy. Any questions about anything, email us info@nightlightastrology.com. I hope you're having a great day. Take it easy. Bye. Hey, everyone. I'm glad that you're sticking around to hear more about the Year 1 program that's coming up. The program starts on November 16th of this fall, and I am here today to tell you all that the program includes and why I think you really like it if you're thinking about studying astrology. So, a few practical details about the course as well. The class begins November 16th, as I mentioned, but it takes place on Saturdays from 12 to about 2 or 3 p.m. Eastern Time. So that's 11 to 2 Central, and typically classes are about 2 hours long. Sometimes they run over with Q&A and discussion, but you can always plan for about 2 hours and you won't miss any of the actual lecture content for the day. You may have to duck out a little early if Q&A or discussion is extending. Sometimes it does, which is why we say between 2 and 3 hours, but typically it's around 2. All of the classes are recorded, so if you can't attend live, you are more than welcome to watch the recordings at your own pace and on your own time. You have lifetime access to the recordings, and everything is housed on a student website. I want to actually give you a just a little preview of what that student website looks like. So I am going to open up my own version of Thinkific, which is the platform that we use. So here's are some of my courses. These are all the Nightlight courses I teach. You can see on the page. But I'm going to tune into, let's go to Nightlight 28, which is the section that began in June of 2024. So here you're going to see that we have orientation instructions, course information, class links, and calendar. Everything that you need to know how to access the course is there, and you'll have a version of this in your own panel that you get set up with when you enroll. And then our lessons are laid out. So lesson 1, we have the video, the audio, the slides, the transcript. We have the Q&A box transcript so you can see what people were saying in the chat box during class. We have flashcards. We have a workbook. We have planet and sign glyph flashcards. We have bonus material, videos that we like from YouTube that we link you to. Say, check this video out, check that video out. They go along with some of the things we talked about in class. So every lesson has material for you to go as far as you want with, but the main thing is the video, audio, slides, transcript, etc. are all listed there so that you can download and watch it on your own time if you can't attend live. Again, the live classes do happen on Saturdays for this cohort, starting November 16th. That is our first day of class. And then going forward, it always meets on Saturdays, and we give you the class schedule to map out. And the breaks that we have, the study sessions that we have, everything's mapped out on the class calendar for you. So those are just a few practical details that, just to kind of start us off with. So I'm going to take you over to the website, which is nightlightastrology.com. And I'm going to share with you some information about the program and sort of walk you through what it includes and what you can expect. So it is an almost year-long program. We typically finish between 10 and 11 months out of the year. It can depend a little bit on some of my teaching and scheduling because sometimes I teach at conferences and it may delay some of our modules by a week or something like that. But it's typically around 10 to 11 months that the program lasts. So we call it our first year program. At Nightlight, we have a program for absolute beginners. You may want to check that out if you are like brand spanking new. That would be 8 to 10 hours of content that's really meant to set you up for the first year course. We sort of assume that if you're coming into the first year program, you already know a little bit about astrology. For example, you have some familiarity with the signs, planets, and houses. Maybe you know what aspects are, but you want to learn more about what they are. But if you are really at the very total entry level space, then try Astrology for Beginners. And when you take that, you could do that right away and then join the first year course in November and you'd be perfectly set up for it. But anyhow, in this program, over the course of about a year, we work through 30 lessons that I lead. And those lessons are all 2 to 3 hours each, including lecture, a little break, and a Q&A portion where we open up for people to come on mic and camera and ask questions and have an interactive discussion about the material for the day. The program is broken into modules that cover a variety of topics in ancient Hellenistic astrology. That is the earliest era of horoscopic astrology. And so, if you don't know a lot about the different schools of astrology, Hellenistic astrology is going to be the kind of astrology that you see a lot of astrologers practicing nowadays. It's become more popular in the last 30 years or so. And that is due to the fact that a lot of ancient texts with some of the original techniques of horoscopic astrologers were recently translated into the English language, and it's created this renaissance in terms of the use of ancient approaches to astrology. I have a background in modern psychological, archetypal, and evolutionary astrology, and so of course I bring those things to the table, but the course is primarily focused on the excavation of ancient techniques and the spiritual philosophy that ancient astrologers also espoused. The closest thing that I can tell you to what that looks like is, ask this question: do you resonate with the philosophy that you hear me take on my YouTube channel? If so, then you're going to love this course in terms of its philosophical and spiritual approach, because the spiritual approach to astrology that I teach is really at the heart of the program. And that's a big part of my life. I approach astrology from a spiritual standpoint. It doesn't belong to one religion or one particular school of thought, but you will hear me talking about things like the soul, the belief in the transmigration of the soul. You'll hear me talk about the need to be soul-centered in our client approach to counseling in astrology. You'll hear me have an appreciation for psychological dimensions of astrology, but also ancient astrology is really very, very good at developing your predictive capacity. We talk about what kinds of predictions are appropriate, how to make appropriate predictions, how to be the right kind of astrologer for our clients without inducing any fear. So there's a lot of care that goes into the development of this craft. But ancient astrology is really amazing when it comes to honing your predictive abilities. And then what you'll find is in this program, there's also a pretty significant emphasis on the psychological dimensions and client care. Anyhow, we go into the roots of ancient Hellenistic astrology and its techniques in this program, and the 30 classes are broken into modules. We work through the history and philosophy. We work through planets, houses, signs, aspects, essential and accidental dignities. And then we get into approaches to the delineation of natal charts. And then at the end of the program, almost a third of the program is dedicated to live client readings, where you're going to see me meet with a person and apply what we've been studying for an hour-long reading. We take a break, we come back, and then we workshop. How did I do that? Why did I make these choices? How did I handle this or that came up in the reading? And it becomes easily the favorite part for most students of the entire program, because by that point, you've got so much theory that you're really ready to see it put into action. We alternate those live client practice sessions with hands-on practice, where students get to bring chart questions into class that we work on. And that's also something that most people really love. A lot of people will look at the curriculum and say, well, I already know planets, houses, and signs and aspects and dignities. But not if you haven't studied Hellenistic astrology, because the approach that ancient astrologers had to these topics is vastly different from the approach that modern astrologers take. So you will be, in a sense, relearning basic things in a brand new way. And I think a much more enriching, deep, and philosophically clear way. It's really nice to know the why behind things. This program, and Hellenistic astrology in general, is very good at helping you understand the why behind everything that we do. Also, it's really important to participate when you study astrology in a living lineage. So one of the reasons I don't let people jump ahead to my second or third year programs is because I want you to be entrained to a lineage, a particular way of doing things that comes from an astrologer who has a very living, busy, active practice and who has had teachers themselves. I think that's important for astrological learning. That's the model that my own learning take, and so that's what I really want students to take away from my programs. Anyhow, so all of that aside, the second year program focuses After we build our understanding of the basic delineation techniques of birth charts, in year 2, we move into timing techniques, which is all about when the karma of a birth chart is going to be active and expressing itself throughout the course of a lifetime. That's year 2. Year 3 focuses on the development of counseling skills at a much deeper level. And then we also have a 1-year horary program, which is about the development of a very specific predictive technique that can be a really amazing tool to add to your kit. That is 4 years worth of training programs that we have. However, I want to mention that many people take our classes just for the sake, purely for the sake of their own personal growth. Taking these programs is very much like being taught how to utilize a technology that for yourself will be deeply useful for the rest of your life, and maybe for close friends or family members around you. Many people come through our programs taking that benefit away. We'll study through all 4 years of our programs with no intention of being professional. This is their hobby. This is a spiritual tool that will have it will pay dividends over a long period of time. However, many people without the intention to practice come into our courses and discover that they're actually good at it and may end up reading for other people part-time. And then there are students who are deeply, intensely motivated to practice for other people. And it is not that our programs really make those people successful. Our programs contribute to your development, but it really is that some people have a calling to practice professionally. And these programs are designed to give you all the tools you need to develop that confidence and to develop a really coherent set of tools and to entrain yourself to a lineage, which you can also develop your own unique style out of. So those are some of the kinds of people that take our programs, you might say. So the 30 classes on the year are then broken into modules. And in between modules, we have 2 course directors who are present in all of the classes, and they lead breakout tutoring sessions where you can come in and review or ask questions about the module that we've just completed, which is usually anywhere between 2 and 3 classes each. So those breakout study sessions led by our tutors are outside of the 30 classes and very useful. A lot of people like to attend those because they also offer opportunity for community and just lively conversation. We also have 12 online webinar classes led by guest teachers that we host throughout the year. Those are free, and if you can't make them live, they're all uploaded into your student folder. You also have an interactive group forum discussion staffed with tutors who typically respond to questions that you have about the material within 24 hours. So if you can't attend a tutoring session or you just have a random question on a Tuesday night, you can pop it in there and you'll get an answer. We also have a ton of bonus material, optional quizzes, flashcards, tons of supplemental material that is there to help people go as deeply as they want. We have a reading list that is expansive. And that reading list, we don't expect anyone to accomplish. It's more so a resource that we give you saying, here, if you want to know all the things I've read, if you want to know all the things that I love, if you want to know all the things I recommend, here's a master list of everything for each lesson. You could go, PhD level if you wanted to and read thousands and thousands of pages, or you might find that there's just one extra book that looks really interesting and you want to pick it up. But we pride ourselves on making sure you have a ton of resources. You have lifetime access to all the class recordings. You can email our staff or me throughout the year with questions, and my staff will also defer to me in the case that they don't know the answer to a question. So that is what the program includes. It starts November 16th. If you would like to join, at the bottom between now and October 15th, our early bird payments are available. So that saves you some money off the cost of the course. There is a 12-month installment plan that is cheaper than our normal plan, a one-time payment that's significantly cheaper than our normal one-time payment. So you get these little sales that we do until October 15th. We also have need-based tuition assistance. So if you are someone who would like to take this program, but you are on a fixed or tight budget, we have an application there. Click apply now. Just tell us what you need. We give a range. We say between this dollar amount and this dollar amount, what can you spend? And then we set you up with a plan for that tuition number per month. And that is available for anyone. We ask people to apply early because those spots are limited, but we are really accommodating. We try to make sure that nobody's priced out of a spiritual education. Like, this topic should be very accessible for people because I believe that the divine is speaking through the sky, and like anyone should have access to understanding what it's saying, right? So anyway, That is a bit about the program. I hope that this has been useful for you. If there are any questions you have, you can look over the curriculum content on the page, on the year one page. There's more information there. Check out the FAQ section for more questions. Email us info@nightlightastrology.com. And I hope to see some of you in class soon. I think this is going to be a really powerful program because it's also starting right as Pluto's moving into Aquarius. And within the year, we're going to have a Uranus-Pluto trine with Uranus in Gemini. These Aries signatures and the connection between Uranus and Pluto make for a very powerful year to advance our understanding of astrology. So it's a great election year for studying. And I hope to see some of you in class soon.